Hello, everyone. We are streaming live today on Facebook, and I am joined by Amanda Ring, and I will introduce her properly in a few minutes. So my name is Janice Amiro. I am the founder of Janice Inspiring Change Holistic Nutrition. And in December, I decided to try to start the year off on a better note for the people who follow me, the people who are trying to be healthier. And so I decided to start interviewing other health and wellness practitioners to bring their expertise and what they do to you to make you be able to help yourself and take care of yourself even better in 2021. So Inspiring Change 2021 was born. And I've been having some great fun doing this. This is episode 32. And today I am joined by Amanda Ring. Thank you so much, Amanda, for joining me.
Thank you, Janice. I'm really excited to be here.
Before I even introduce you, I want you to tell me about your yome.
Right. Well, as viewers can probably see behind me, this is the structure that I work out of with my clients and for workshops and trainings. Yeah. So this space, when I was looking at expanding what I was doing in my practice, I wanted a space that I could work with to offer things in small groups because it's a passion of mine to work intimately in those groups. So this is like a yurt, but
Mm-hmm.
it's slightly different, and I discovered it through a good friend who has one, and there's a man in North Carolina who created this design similar to a yurt, but because the infrastructure is different, it's much lighter. So it's an eight-sided circular building, and I say building. It doesn't have any solid walls. These are canvas walls, and there's the door to come in. I actually have a heat pump in here. A lot of people would have a wood stove, but I already have one of those in my house. And I
Uh-huh.
wanted and the space in here to really be able to regulate the temperature. And yeah, so it's like I really wanted something that felt like you were walking into this healing space, and because it's doesn't have the solid walls, we can still hear nature here. We can still hear the cars and dogs, but we can also hear birds, and we can also hear the rain. And it's amazing, Janice, how when I'm working with clients or even at running a workshop, there'll be a moment where someone is having an aha moment or something they've said and they've just heard themselves clearly. A woodpecker will start pounding, or a blue jay will call, or a crow will go over, or the rain will start to come at a moment, even when maybe we're not dialoguing, but they're on the table and I'm doing energy work with them, and there's a big release, and then it starts to rain, heavily. And it's just like nature is mirroring and communicating to them. And I very much work in an intuitive and shamanic way as much as I work from a coaching perspective. So it helps people also go, oh my gosh, like, look at that. This is being affirmed and validated in this other way, which is happening to us all the time, which is what I love to help people reconnect with. So yeah, that's a really special space.
Sure is. I'd love to just step into it. Maybe I'll get there one of these days.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so I'll just tell our viewers, our listeners, a little bit about you before we get going. And Amanda is a consciousness coach and intuitive energy practitioner. She offers personal and spiritual empowerment coaching, intuitive energy healing, women's circles, retreats, and training. And she has a few things going on we'll talk about at the end. Um, Amanda's passion is working with women who want to transform their wounds into opportunities for healing. She provides support and guidance for those who want to live from a greater place of self-love, empowerment, and who desire to embody themselves, their life, as something sacred. Amanda is devoted to helping others come home to themselves and in the process reclaim their sense of worth, intuitive knowing, and sacred sovereignty. So, wow, Amanda, I am I'm so happy that you decided to join me today. And I think the first question I have for you is about the name of your business. And oh, by the way, I do have on my phone, I did find us, so that if anyone has any questions, then you can just put them in. There's a few viewers already. So if anyone has any questions for Amanda, just write them in the chat there in the comments, and I will pick them up and get them answered for you. So the name of your business is Seven Feathers Healing Arts. Can you tell me why you chose that name?
Sure. Well, and initially, and it's interesting because I was reflecting before connecting with you today, and it's been about 7 years actually, which is totally not a coincidence that it's been 7 years that I've started sort of my journey of opening up to my authentic work, my more soul work, passion. And at the time, my business was called Amanda Ring. What was it called? Amanda Ring Integrative Wellness Therapy. And it was really, and I knew that over time, as I was working within that, it would evolve, because as we grow and change, things in all manner of our lives evolve. And so I realized I wasn't fully initially comfortable owning my own gifts, my own path as more of a spiritual leader and a more of a spiritual guide, as much I really was, clinging on to more of my clinical background as a therapist and as a yoga therapist and, that sort of thing. But as I followed my intuition and explored more therapies and trainings that I personally explored, but started doing the trainings to be able to offer them, it just became apparent to me that it was an intention in everything is important to me, so that the name didn't reflect anymore how I felt about what I was offering, and I needed to honor the more spiritual side of things.
Mm-hmm.
And 7 is a very sacred number, and I work a lot with the chakra system and the subtle energy body as well as the everyday practical things. So 7 is very much connected to the 7 primary chakras. It has a significance in it's also, it's, if you go to my website, I actually have a blog post that's called The Story of My Brand, that sort of goes into more detail, like explaining how the significance comes into play, because there's all these levels of awareness, that the sacred numerology of the number 7, and it is about this spiritual development, and also about being able to ground that in the everyday life, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that feels like very much who I am as a person, and what I offer to people is I'm a very much an everyday regular mom with teenagers, and have an ordinary existence, but I also have an extraordinary existence because of what I allow myself to explore and what I have allowed myself to follow intuitively. It's also feathers have always, and birds, and I say bird medicine because I've had a deep connection to nature my whole life, and when I share these stories with clients, they're like, "Oh, me too, me too. Like I could feel this and sense that in nature, or in a spiritual way. I think I felt a spirit in this house, or that sort of thing." And so feathers have always been spirit messages to me, and birds have shown up, and they showed up when I really embraced my path, when I came through my divorce and really started reclaiming and discovering who I was outside of that relationship, outside of all the hats and roles that I had put on myself and embodied by what culture had said I needed to do. I started getting messages all the time, and they came mostly in the form of birds. And there's lots of stories about that, which we could spend the whole 45 minutes talking about. But yeah, so they're very much, and each bird, as well as other animals, but birds represent this ability to take flight at any point.
Mhm.
To have this capacity to open up their wings. It doesn't matter if it's the tiniest little bird or if it's a chicken or if it's an eagle. There's this capacity to open, and there's lightness as well as the capacity to ground ourselves. And that's what I strive for personally, to have this sense of sacredness in life and also be really grounded in the here and now as part of that. So there's that blog post, and I'm often sharing on my social media. I get messages, feathers being left. What is the medicine of the bird that's related to? And it'll always be significant for me. So I
Mhm.
have several feather tattoos that are significant parts of my journey, and they are for me as reminders to see the big picture, to speak and honor my truth, to always come back to love, and to march to the beat of my own drum. That sort of thing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Beautiful.
yeah,
Beautiful.
so that was the transition really in the naming, and yeah, thank you for asking.
Perfect. So, so I think that just to clarify for our audience, what is consciousness coaching? Because that is something that you offer, but a lot of people might not really know what that means.
Yeah, that's a great question. And yeah, for a long time I was calling myself a life coach, yoga life coach, and trying to get the right fit. And then I realized, a big part of what I do is offer consciousness raising experiences for people. And essentially our consciousness is the state and the level of our mindset, or our lens through which we see ourselves, we see others, and we see the world, and we see our life, right? So um, when we have a consciousness raising experience, then we have a really new, profound, or subtle acknowledgement of seeing things differently. And when we see or experience or acknowledge something that we didn't see or feel or know before, it changes things. It provides opportunity for us to make a new choice. When we can see that, oh, that situation actually was for my benefit in some way, even though it was extremely painful, it's leading me to this, putting me in this position where I have to find my truth, right?
Mhm.
Like,
Mhm.
and so when I thought about it, consciousness coaching really felt like the appropriate term, because whether it's through like coaching dialogue, or an inner child exercise, or a breathwork session, or a drum journey, whatever the medium through which we're exploring together, you're going to have some consciousness raising in
Mhm.
it. And
Mhm.
that's a gateway. It's a gateway for change. And we can choose, it raises our awareness. And when we have, like we've talked about before on the call, is when we have a raising in awareness and we see something differently, wow, we have more choice.
Mhm.
We
Mhm.
realize, oh, maybe there's something that I can let go of now, or maybe there's something that I've actually been more deeply not allowing myself to see that I want to move towards.
Mhm.
Now I can see what's been in the way.
Yes, exactly. And you mentioned the journey can be a little bit uncomfortable, painful. But if we allow ourselves to experience it, there is so much beauty on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
And we are so much in our society is so much about being pain free, and it's too painful to go through that, or it's just too difficult to go through it. But when we allow ourselves to do that, um, we're so thankful that we did.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the transformation. That's been my personal experience as well as my professional experience. Um, that's what allows us to come back to the capacity to love ourselves, to experience more joy and peace. But we need to be willing to sit with what it is and to look at it, be willing to dive into it. So that's a lot of my work, is holding this really loving, safe space for
Mhm.
people to step into what maybe they haven't been willing to look at, or is really coming up in their face and they're like, oh my gosh, like I need to work with this. And or they're like real, I mean, it's across the map where people are, but people need to feel safe to do that. And our culture, like you said, has been more about suppression and let's just keep moving and let's just go into the next thing. And there's been so much external validation and living life from what you have and what you do,
Mhm.
how you show up for other people, that can be very disempowering, and it takes us away from things. So we end up living and making choices based on what we think other people need, or what we should do, or what we have to do, or what we must do. And that creates a lot of internal suffering. There's a lot of self-doubt, a lot lack of confidence, not feeling connected to our intuition, feeling a lot of grief because there's this separation. But it all, in my experience, boils back to feeling a separation from self.
Yes, yes. And um, we start doing that at a very young age.
Absolutely.
And it's, it's very, very, I think it's very sad because we're raised to fit into the mold, and then all of a sudden we get on that hamster wheel, and we don't know how to stop it. And if we can jump off, sometimes we're derailed, something comes along
Mm-hmm.
that throws us off.
Mm-hmm.
And usually that's when this healing starts, when it, unfortunately, we don't really say, maybe some of us do say, well, I think I'm going to work on myself. Something derails us, and then we start to realize that perhaps there's something different that we can
Mm-hmm.
explore, so that we can be healthier in, not just the body but the mind, and the two are very connected. So
And the
so
spirit, and this connection to this sense of, and I say spirit and spirituality as, not necessarily religious. It's more about what helps you feel connected to the essence and the beauty of life. Or it
mhm.
just, do you feel like you're a robot going through the motions of life? And I certainly can connect to that. And there's definitely going to be times in our lives when we're more busy than others. But yeah, I would echo that, Janice. Our early life experience and our culture have a huge impact on what our mindset is, what our belief systems are, and that informs, how we live, essentially. So it's important, and it is unfortunate because there is this sense that, and we're moving out of that, though. I feel a lot of hope, even though these are really challenging times. There's a deep hope within it, and it's a really rich opportunity for us, that things are not linear. That is kind of more the old paradigm, sort of the patriarchal way. You get married, you have a career, you have children, you get the dog, you have the house, you did it, like these are the things that we do, at least in our Western perception of things. And if you're not doing those things, and you're not doing them in the order and at the age that you're supposed to do them, well, you're doing something wrong. You're failing. Well, not in my books and not in my experience. And we're moving into more of a feminine way of, in the new paradigm of like that life is like this. And
Yeah.
that's when we get derailed. It's because maybe we're trying to go stay on track right here, but your higher self or your soul, your what you want to really experience isn't in that direction, and that's getting communicated out to the world, and the universe comes in and says, right, come on, let's go over here.
Right, that's
You've been
right.
sending this out, I'm listening. So
Hmm.
you're going down the wrong track. Let's stop here and go in, because so
Yeah.
much of our world is referenced out here,
Mhm.
and rightly or wrongly. And I really come from a place of non-judgment, that we learn a lot in our early childhood life, and that's why it is important in a lot of a big piece of the work that I do in different ways. We explore, what did we adopt, what was modeled to us, what did we experience and take on in our early life from our guardians, whether they were our parents or grandparents, whoever raised us, whomever we spent time with. um, it's not about blaming them, because everyone has done the best that they could with what their life experience was, whatever traumas and needs that didn't get met for them. But we do need to honor and allow space for what never got met for us, or what was confusing, or what was traumatizing, how it diminished our sense of confidence or trust in ourselves, and give space to that. And that's what you're talking about. We need to sit with that, be with it, and allow it. And that can be, and I see the wounds as gateways.
Yes.
My wounds have been my gateways, right? And we continue to get different layers and
Mhm.
levels of them as we carry on.
Mhm.
But that work is super important. Um, and we may never have had the opportunity to express something as a 4-year-old or a 14-year-old that's really informed a belief that we have. And our beliefs are not who we are, as you know. They
Mhm.
are they are something we've learned that informs how we see ourselves, how we see other people. So if we have a core belief about women, or a core belief about men, or a core belief about life, like life is a struggle, if we
Mhm.
hold the core belief that life is a struggle because that's what you heard or that's what you saw, you're going to see life through that lens
Mhm.
just by default, because that's in your patterning. So a lot of the work that I explore both in group format and individual is a process of inquiry in a loving and safe way,
Mhm.
to unpattern and to unbecome the things and the ways that we aren't truly connected to, and what truly aren't ourselves. So to move into that place of acknowledgement and move through the feelings and the emotions of it, and then be able to make different choices
Mhm.
moving forward. So, and that can happen in a number of different ways. And that's why I also say I'm an intuitive energy worker. I'm a Reiki master. I've also trained in some shamanic practices. But it's really, each session can look different because it's depending on what's coming up and what's active. And I feel the old way of like having a plan and this is what we're going to work on every time you come, it's like we might have something in mind, but there's actually something else that's really activated. We might not have even seen it. And that's what we need to give our attention to, because that's what's most movable, because it's ready, right?
Mhm. That's
Yeah.
right. And you know, you make a good point because a lot of people will ask me what's involved in, I have a 12-week program for sugar addiction, and you know, what does it look like? What's involved? And it's, I can answer it to a point, but it's very, very personalized. So it's not a cookie cutter approach. What I do, what you do, because each person we're dealing with is unique. So every person has their unique challenges, their unique beliefs, their unique baggage, whatever you want to
Yeah.
call it.
Mm-hmm.
And so we might all start out at the same place by trying to, you know, those systems that try to get to the root of what's going on. But then what works better for one person is not going to work as well for another. So as the therapist, or as the guide or the coach, then we would use what we have. We pull out from our toolkit what's going to work for that individual and
Mm-hmm.
get them to where they want to be. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's not a one size fits all in this
Exactly.
line of work, for sure.
And also there are going to be times when the work or what I offer may not be the right fit for someone. They might need something else, and that's okay. That's not a reflection of me or them. And what I have to offer may not be somebody's cup of tea. That's okay too.
Mhm.
And that's also something I want to continuously support, that there is enough resources for everyone. And it might be I can remember being at the local healing fairs a number of years back when we could have those, and
Yes.
you know, talking with some women, and you know, some of them were on board right away, some I didn't connect with, and a year later, hey, I remember meeting you, this has just come up for me, I feel like I'm ready. So it's like, right, trust when you're ready. And I always say that to folks when they come in the door, it's like, you're here, you're ready on some level for something, so let's see what that is. And so that customization and personalization is also hugely important, because um, like you said, we are on all our own individual journey, so we're not meant to look like this other person's journey or experience. And that's quite validating in that sense too for people, because it's trusting them, their own way, their own needs, and learning how to stop comparing, right? Because
Yes.
that's a big thing we do in our culture too. And
Mhm.
so it's only if it's happening this way, it must be right, rather than this is the way it's happening for me and that feels right.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
right.
Hmm.
So who are your clients, and what are the tangible benefits to your clients?
Hmm. So I work predominantly with women
Hmm.
of all ages. I've even done some like mother-daughter um, sessions, helping support communication, understanding what's going on, building bridges, things like that. But I do work with men as well. And I would say that the people I'm serving the most are looking at feeling more connected to their confidence, their worth, their ability to make decisions for themselves, like working with self doubt, having feeling like there's something more going on. And they can't put a finger on it, like there's some change happening and they want some guidance and they're curious about the spiritual side of it. But then I also have others that are just really want to feel yeah, to have less anxiety, to feel more clear on how they feel in their life, what they want in their life. So there's the benefits are having less anxiety, or at least being able to understand where that anxiety is coming from and be able to start to work with it and have some tangible tools to support themselves, but also be, because all our emotions in these states are just giving us information. That anxiety, like you say as well with the addictions, like that comes from something deeper. So
Right.
when that's happening, we're like, great, thank you, anxiety, for being here, because you're showing me that there's something else that's not in alignment, that is out of place, that's not feeling right, and let's explore that, let's see if where we can find that. And then generally the anxiety has a more of a purpose, and it's not just something that keeps derailing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So lessened anxiety, increased confidence, an ability to have better boundaries, how to communicate those boundaries differently, how to let go of self-judgment and self-deprecation and really be working with that self-love piece. And self-love shows up in ways like, how do I change my boundaries and deal with the fallout of the change of boundaries in my life, and how other people might respond to those. So confidence around being more authentic and
Right.
peeling off the masks that we've learned to put on. So having that loving guidance and support along the way, and increased trust, self-trust, increased connection to intuition. Part of the work I do is about embodiment, and what is your intuition? How do you feel it? How do you sense it? How is your body wisdom communicating to you, even though the mind is saying this? What's the body saying? So helping people start to learn, we're so disconnected from our bodies,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So in a situation, we'll often be making choices that don't feel right, but we don't even realize they don't feel right fully, because we're doing our thing that we're supposed to do. So embodiment, increased trust in yourself, and increased intuition, and more peace.
Mhm.
um, More
Mhm.
peace. These are all very tangible benefits, and being seen and being heard. So many
Mhm.
people do not feel seen and heard for who they are, but they've also learned to not show who they are, right?
That's
So
right.
this is a safe place to start to unveil that for themselves and be able to explore.
So what would given that you're in this gorgeous surroundings, what does an appointment with you look like? When someone calls and says, I'd like to have an appointment with you, what does that look like? How do you, what's the first step?
Yeah, so there's a couple, in the sense, if it's somebody completely new, I offer a free 15-minute discovery call. So sometimes people just like, you just keep coming up, your name keeps showing up. I just know I need to connect to you. I don't know why. But I'm trusting that. I'm like, hallelujah, trust that. Even if it's a short engagement, like follow that intuitive hit, just do it.
Yes,
So
yes.
people can sign up for that on my website. Currently, only June is there because there's just been so many moving parts right now. I don't have my summer schedule fully set, just with everything opening up again with COVID and such, but that will be there soon. People can always fire me off an email too if something doesn't fit for the June. So on my website, when you go to connect with me, and there's also on different pages when you look through the offers, book a free discovery call, and that'll take you right to my online calendar. So that's often a first step, especially if people don't know me. Some people are like, I don't need that, I just want to come. But some people are like, let's just see, am I and what I have to offer the fit for you right now, right? Let's just explore that. And then for others who are maybe existing clients or just want to dive right in, there's a combination of dialoguing, which happens sometimes over there, sometimes, it's often in the chairs over there, but the dialoguing can happen on the table. So I weave together coaching and the energy work, and that energy work can even be like, as they're sharing some background information and we're exploring what it is that they want to shift, what they want to be able to change their perception of, or what they want to have more peace around. So there's a lot of unforgiveness out there of self and situations in life. So maybe we're exploring that. We'd be doing some talking. I might be doing some hands-on work while they're actually sitting in the chair. So if something starts to come up and I take them into a guided visualization or a guided practice to talk to their inner child, I might be there also supporting energetically and getting them to tune into their body as these things are coming up. So when we get in our triggered state, we need to know what's going on emotionally and with our thoughts. So it could be sort of hands on there. And then typically then we transition to the table, which is where I'm got myself set up right now to do some hands-on energy work. Sometimes it might be the guidance coming through might be that they need to journey into something more specifically. So I will guide them through a drum journey for 15 minutes, or even if
Wow.
so that they can start exploring. They're a big part of all of this work around consciousness raising is bringing from the unconscious state what's influencing us into a more conscious state. And often that is not through the left brain logic, ask this question, answer this question. It involves accessing our intuition and our the spiritual planes, and that's more symbolic and metaphoric. So then I support people through, well, what this animal showed up, or there was this landscape. Well, what does that landscape mean to you, or what did that feel like when you saw it? So we go through that kind of process. It's very individual, Janice, but there's usually a combination of this coaching, dialoguing. We sometimes go through written exercises to get at belief systems and peel the onions, and then we take that into the table work and see where it's in the energy field. Sometimes it'll then transition into a breath work session, which is a very powerful way to process. So almost always we're exploring some form of belief, mindset, and bringing it into how this is also on a very practical level informing your choices and how you feel about yourself. And then how is this existing in the energy field on a soul level? So I know you had Shaya on last week or the week before, and similar to her in a way, I have psychic information that comes through, and it always comes through who needs to have it at the time. So even yesterday with a client, a spirit presence came in. It was her grandmother, right? And there was a message for her related to what was going on, right? And that doesn't always happen. I don't work in this exact same way as Shaya does in terms of mediumship, but so it's really, again, based on what's coming up for the person, and also helping people understand what the heck energy is. What is spirit communication? So the people that are interested in that, I tend to get those people who are gravitating towards like wanting to have this connection to themselves and have more balance in their life, feeling happier in general. but also curious. And I
Mhm.
really feel it's important for myself as in the role that I am is I'm not here to fix people. I'm not, because first of all, there is no, to me, there is no being broken. There is things that are out of balance, things are misaligned. We've learned things that don't belong with us. Um, but we also have a soul journey.
Mhm.
And so there's very much that side of it that I want people to start to learn for themselves. How do you feel energy? How does spirit perhaps communicate through you? What signs and intuitive hits do you get? Do you notice the patterns? How do you connect to them so that they're getting more and more informed from their internal self?
The
Not
people
necessarily.
are more aware than people are, once you start to say that to someone, they say, oh yeah, I noticed that, or I was thinking this. And I think that there's this, we don't know that those things are there for a reason, that they're trying to tell us something. But once you start opening the door to that, you do start to see it more and more. And it's certainly, you know, you opening the door and raising that awareness, then they will, there's a huge shift in how that person moves forward after they understand that what's been happening to them has been happening and the reason why. Yeah. um,
Absolutely. Hmm.
I just want, because we have about 9 minutes left,
Yeah.
and because we both have other things to do. There's two things I wanted to ask you about. Of course, I want you to let us know about how to contact you, and you mentioned that already, really. But you have an online course I wanted you to share with the viewers, and you have a weekend retreat coming up. So if you can take some time to explain about those two things, then that might give someone who's listening, thinking, oh, well, I can explore Amanda's work a little bit more. There might be a retreat that I can attend. So let us know about that, Amanda.
Sure. Thanks, Janice. Yeah, so the Wise Woman a Wise Woman Awakening online course is something that came out of, like, I'd been running women's circles for a while and doing the one-to-one work, and I could really see the themes that were coming up, and women were wanting more opportunity to develop their intuitive self, to be more in this space of carving out time to connect to self, to connect with life, to this yearning, because we've become so separated from the sacredness of things and having that ability to process that. So I started thinking about it, had been coming for a while to create this course. And so it's a great place for people to both start and deepen what they're already doing. I designed it so it's very connected to the divine feminine and the goddess energy, and for us to work with belief systems as well. So it's a 13 module course, and but it and it's but and it's something you can purchase the whole thing all at once, or there's a monthly option, and then it's all download ready. And each module has a theme that's connected to the chakra system, that's also connected to an archetype, and goddess energy, and tapping into things like music and playing with oracle cards and doing reflective self inquiry and journaling. And then, because I've taught yoga and bioenergetics and chakra yoga, I created some support so that each module has a tool for you to then go to and use. So, a body based practice, something that brings you into your body. And they're all connected in the themes. So,
Mhm.
I love themes. And I think that makes it easy for people to move through. So, you can weave in and out of the course as you wish, or you can go from start to finish. It kind of is it's whatever you prefer and like to do and have space for. And everything is segmented so that, you can download the things when you want to. You could print off the journaling questions and work with those, take it with you to the cabin on the weekend, or when you go to the beach, so you have a few minutes on your own, whatever. But the archetypes, so a lot of people don't know what archetypes are. So this is based again on the chakra system. So there's basic information about the energy body and the chakras, which are our energy centers in the subtle body that go along the spine. They have a lot of symbolism with them. They're each connected to an element of the earth, colors, body organs, certain emotions, that sort of thing. And we know that we hold those energies in our body. And then the archetypes are basically like a character. So sometimes we can't see things different than we see them until we step out of ourselves. So an archetype might be like the hero, right? So we hear of the hero of the story. Well, the hero has these definite qualities, right?
Mhm.
They have deep courage and they have strength and they have this and that. And then you might have something like an archetype, like if you think about you're reading a novel, you can relate to certain aspects of the character.
Mhm.
You might not be able to relate to other aspects of the character. And that's where the juice is, right? Because we use archetypes to start to explore our perceptions.
Mhm.
So there is a link on my website to the course. I'll speak a little bit more about it, but there's a link there, and then it takes you to the Seven Feathers Healing School where the course lives. That's the platform the course lives, and there's a little brief on each one. And if somebody goes in and has a look at that, and they're still not sure, book a discovery call with me, and we can talk about it. I'm happy to answer questions. But for instance, the archetypes are like the root chakra, which is the earth, and our first chakra in the system is the archetype is the earth mother. And so the nemesis of the earth in psycho-emotional terms of that chakra is fear, right? Fear that we don't belong, fear that we don't have enough, fear. So I share all of that. So you get an opportunity to work through questions that you could substitute any fear that you have
Mhm.
in there to start exploring where that came from, how you can embody what would be the healthy version of an earth mother or mothering type of energy, an archetype. How can you be that mother for yourself? How can you make changes in your choices? And then it's the inner maiden, the inner goddess, then it's the divine mother, the inner seer. So there's themes to explore, and it's getting you out of, you're looking at your practical situation but also expanding how you can explore it. And there's a Spotify list, so there's music to sit with, so there might be some vulnerability there, that everything is themed, and there's intention in everything, and it's all self-love based and empowerment based, and I love it, love it, love it. So
So I'm going to just move on to the retreat because we have
yeah,
like 2 minutes.
2 seconds, yeah. Yes, you
Yeah.
can see I'm passionate about it.
And
Yeah.
maybe we need to have another conversation where you can go through a little bit more of your program. That'd be awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to do that. Yeah, and I'm planning on doing a small like Zoom or live for people to go through like a
And
similar
explain
process.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I do have a YouTube channel as well, and there are some short videos on there about the course, all
Hmm.
about it. And like, you don't have to have any experience with yoga or using oracle cards or tarot decks or anything woo. You don't have to have any experience with any of that. Um, so they can check that out. The Windhorse Retreat is an opportunity for a full weekend of immersion to be with other women in a sisterhood, to have space to yourself, connect with nature. We're going to do empowerment ceremonies. We're going to have time to do reflection. There's some very unique experiences there, which is called the empowerment, where we do an arrow break ceremony, which is moving us into something that in the direction we really want to go, or we're breaking away from something we really want to leave behind. We do some chakra dance there. So, again, being able to have the experience of art and movement through music to move energy that's stuck in the body. There's healthy, gorgeous food. We do a night walk.
And it's
Um,
there on your property.
no, this is at Windhorse Farm. The information
Oh,
is coming
okay.
soon.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Windhorse Farm, we are in the farmhouse, and it's only for 8 women because I like to keep it again intimate.
And
Um,
what's the date?
September 24th to the 26th. The
Hmm.
information is coming soon. I'm working on that now, and registration. There'll be an opportunity to be on a list to get to get the information coming up. I'm
Um,
working. Yeah.
Once we're done today, I'll be posting this interview on my YouTube page, and I don't know, you can do the same, but
Thank
certainly once you have the dates and more details, Amanda, you can go to my YouTube page and plug that in there if you would,
you.
because then if anyone's listening to the conversation, they're going to want to know about the about the details of the event. So in September 24th, you said.
September 24th to the 26th.
Yeah.
And there is a video on my website from the retreat in 2019. We couldn't have it last year because of
Oh,
COVID.
yeah.
And there's also a blog on my website about the essence of that weekend. And there'll be some variances in it this year because, again, I always like to follow my intuition, but the core pieces will be the same and the intention will be the same. So thank you, Janice, so much. And I can't see who's been on the call. So whoever's popped in and out of the call, thank you so much.
And you can share the video after. You'll be able to grab it and share it. And for those people who did join, thank you so much. I think Amanda and I could probably have set 3 hours and still be talking. So I really appreciate all the information that you've shared. And yeah, I'd love to have you back on to maybe pick one topic, one kind of focus, and talk a bit more about that. That would be fantastic. So we'll have to plan that.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah. And I have a few things in I call the cauldron as well.
yeah,
Some group offerings that will be coming down the pipeline. So and some trainings coming up. So that'll be great to share those too.
absolutely.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
your work, Janice.
Thank you so much. Once again, I'm Janice Amiro, and my this is Janice Inspiring Change 2021 is my program that I'm doing weekly interviews, and I'll see you next week. I'll be introducing you to a homeopathic practitioner, Sarah Trask, and we'll talk to her, and we will see you then. I will sign off and get to my next. I'm being interviewed by Lisa Fowler in a few minutes, so
Okay.
I have to run and
Awesome.
talk about sugar addiction. So I'll be in the hot seat this
All
time.
right. Good luck.
Yeah,
Have fun.
yeah. So thanks a lot, everyone, for joining, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.